Welcome, fellow questers, to Metaverse Adventures. My name is Matthew. Today is May 18th, and this is your Oculus Quest Week in Review. And we're only days away from May 21st, and all of you and me getting our hands finally on the Oculus Quest. This is a great episode, so stay tuned. We start our week again by looking at the Oculus Quest hype cycle. And like last week, we're going to head over to Google Trends and have a look at the data to see where it's at. Now you'll recall, last week I reported to you that we saw the Oculus Quest peaking on May 1st. And it was the top HMD that was newly announced that time frame, along with the Valve Index and of course the Oculus Rift S. And as we reported, all three sharply dropped off, except the Quest seemed to maintain itself throughout the week much better than the other devices. And in fact, it started to go up at the end of last week. Well, I'm happy to report that this week, it has yet again continued to climb. I don't know where it's going to head next week when it actually launches, but people definitely are very excited about the Quest. And the data really shows it. In fact, what's really interesting is that after all the hype in the index had back on May 1st, look where it's at today. In fact, as of the 15th, it was trending downwards even further. It's falling off the face of the planet. Talk about a crash and burn hype cycle. We'll have to see where the Quest goes, but something tells me we're going to see it do well over the course of the next few months. Now, one of the things that's driving that this week are shipments are arriving at stores. That's right. Reddit user Bluecold found out that his store received 5 Oculus Quests on Thursday. And he did note that that wasn't enough to cover all their pre-orders. And so they're really hoping they get the next shipment on Monday. And they're hoping that includes more than just the pre-orders, because they know, or at least they suspect, that there may be some people walking in on the store on Tuesday morning looking to buy one right there on the spot. And so I'm hoping that we don't have a lot of disappointed people on Tuesday who didn't pre-order one. Maybe you're going to be out of luck, maybe not, I don't know. But it does seem like the pre-orders are getting filled, and maybe that's that. And I'll report on this more at the end of next week, and I hope that you have some luck. And if you have any comments or any experiences this week, please go ahead and let me know how you made out in getting your Quest. Also in our hype cycle, let's head over to Amazon's top 100 video game list. As you can see, yet again, for the third week in a row, it's in the top 100. And like last week, the 64 gigabyte model sits around the mid-30s, and the 128 gigabyte model sits around the mid-40s. Now, I did notice that the 120 gigabyte dipped a little bit on Wednesday to the mid-60s, and I thought that was because of the price point and people were more leaning towards the cheaper model. But then it bounced right back up again into the high 30s and low 40s again, so pretty close to the 64 gigabyte. We'll have to see what happens after the launch this week, if that maintains to stay in the top 100. A lot of people are speculating that it's going to drop off the top 100 list, and I could see that happening for a short while, but I do suspect we're going to see it to maintain a fairly strong run all the way through to Christmas. It might drop off a few times, but I suspect we're going to see it on there more often than not. And I also want to point out that of all 100 items, it is the Oculus Quest 128 gigabyte model at $499 that is by far and away the most expensive. The second most is the Quest 64 gigabyte model and the PS4, both at $399, and then it drops down to $299 for the Nintendo Switch. And after that, you're down into the $20, $30 items. And that's what the list is mostly made up. You don't see a lot of the higher cost items in there. So again, I want to say that it's a big deal that the Oculus Quest has been in the top 100 for 3 weeks running now. This says a lot about how much demand is out there, along with the Google Trends data. So this is exciting. As we go into the 21st, I think we're going to have an exciting week next week with a lot of people going out there and showing their friends their brand new Quest. Last week I reported on an experience called First Contact that was coming out for the Quest. Now I noted that it was actually originally on the Rift when you got your touch controllers. And what's really cool is that Mike over at Virtual Reality Oasis, fantastic channel, if you haven't been there, he went ahead and did a little comparison showing you the Rift version right side by side with the Quest version. And you can go ahead and look right here. I was very impressed. In fact, there's not a lot of differences here. I guess the most notable thing to jump out at you would be there's less lighting effects in the Quest. You don't see as particles per se. and maybe on the edges some of the graphics are a little bit more jaggies. But other than that, they look very similar. And the comments have been that when you're inside of there, unless you're doing a direct comparison, going from one to the other, you probably wouldn't even know a difference. Now, I am blown away. I was not expecting it to look nearly this good. In fact, if you didn't tell me this was the Quest version, I would have just assumed it was the Rift version. So this is very exciting, and it bodes well to what can be done on the Quest. Links below if you want to see that video in full details. Also this week, YouTuber ETR out of France, link below to these videos because they're amazing. Go ahead and look for them. They're in French, but they are subtitled in English. He went ahead and did two really cool experiments. The first one he calls ring scale, and the second one we're calling stadium scale. On the ring scale side, he put in Creed, Rise of Glory, and he figured out that a boxing ring is 6.5 by 6.5 meters, or 21 by 21 feet. He made a play space with the Guardian system a little bit bigger than that, around 24 feet by 24 feet. And then he went in there and he literally roamed around that ring, just roamed around that ring and looking at the crowd, looking at that stadium that you're in. And his comments were, it was truly amazing. You really felt like you're on a stadium, on a boxing ring. I've got to try that. I'm not even a big boxing fan, but that just sounds so badass that got me really excited. And it's just so cool that you can make a space that large. And then the same user, he also went and made a stadium style space. Now, Oculus Quest won't track anything larger than 25 by 20 feet, but you can turn off the Guardian. And you saw me talk about that last week when Cass and Cherry show us how to do that. So he turned it off, and of course, he had a very large space to play in. It was like a big field. He called it a stadium. It's like a horse field or something, as you can see here. And then he had a friend spot him. Now, spotting is very important because there is no Guardian system. So just for safety, I would advise if you ever do this, you do the same thing as well. You don't want to run into something. Anyways, he's in this space and he's walking around for, it looks like, many hundreds of feet. Plus, he ran at one point. He's running in VR through the world of Journey of Gods, and he's just amazed by it. And he just felt like it was like a tourist, like he was exploring this new world and not having to teleport, not having to worry about guardian walls popping up. He says was truly an amazing experience, something that people must try. And so that's one of the things that I know I'm going to be trying ASAP. Now, speaking of that, MRTV, that's Sebastian, he went ahead and did some experiments this week around how do you get outdoor play going, because that's what this fellow did at ETR. His experiments were all outdoor. What Sebastian found is that yes, you can use the Oculus Quest outdoors. Now, there's a few caveats. You need to have a fairly low light area, and it cannot have any direct sunlight coming in. And he shows three different scenarios in this video. One where he had it successfully working. He said it was flawless, where he was outdoors, but he had an overhang over his head and an open area on his left. And that seemed to work just fine, but there was no direct sun beaming into any spot in that area. The second area he tried, was in a shaded tree area, and it did have the odd beam of sun coming and hitting the ground around him. Not a lot, but some. But that was enough to throw the tracking off. He said it only worked about 70% of the time. And then the last area he tried was another shaded area underneath a tree, but this one with no sunbeams coming through. Still a bright day and sunny everywhere else. And that one, he said, did work. So it seems like the Quest has a really difficult time with bright, direct sunshine, whether it be on the ground or coming at the headset. But it seems to be okay in the shade. Now, I'm sure you all know this already, but I'll repeat it. You must be very careful if you do any of these experiments yourself to never get direct sunlight directly into the lenses of your Quest. And the reason being is that those lenses are sort of like a magnifying glass. If you've ever taken one and held it up in the sun and got a piece of paper, you'll notice that the little spot of light kind of condenses into one little area and it starts to smoke and burn. That's your screens that would be smoking and burning. So don't do it. There's lots of people who have damaged, and it's irreparable. Once you do this, your screens are done. You're going to have to get another Quest. So be very careful. In fact, Sebastian over at MRTV was always using a little paper insert that came with the Quest. He would put it in there against the lenses whenever he went outdoors. And he was very, very careful. He was also borrowing it, so I'm sure he was extra careful. But you don't want to wreck your Quest. So if you're going to play outside, take precautions. All right, so let's talk about some games this week. There was quite a few games that showed new content that we hadn't seen before. The first one, and one that I'm personally very excited about, is Orbis VR. Now, we've seen plenty of trailers from them, but they were always Rift or Vive trailers. Well, this week we got the first treat to an Oculus Quest trailer, and it looks just as awesome as the PC counterparts. In fact, it looks almost exactly the same, I would say. And the one thing that really spoke to me when I looked at it was how much it reminded me of EverQuest. If you don't know what EverQuest is, it was a 1999 MMORPG, one of the first really big successful ones, sort of right after Ultima Online became big. And it had a huge following, and it was a 3D world with render graphics, and it was very, very large and had many, many towns in many areas, and it was just an awesome, awesome game. And I remember playing that game and really, really wanting to be inside of that world. But here we are, 20 years later, and even though the graphics are the same, you're now finally in that world. And that just shows you how much of a stretch it was to get from that world to VR. It took 20 years. I urge you to try this game out if you're a fan of MMORPGs. It is like nothing you've ever experienced before. Even if you're a seasoned MMORPG person, you've played all of them and you're tired of them or into them, whatever it is, when you play Orbis VR, you're gonna have a totally different experience. And these images here in this video you're seeing doesn't do it justice at all. It is way more immersive. It's way more using your own physical skills and way less about tapping buttons. Truly, it is ushering in a whole new era, and I can't wait to see where MMORPGs go on the Quest.
I think I need that one anyway.
Hunter, do you want to do a dungeon?
Hello.
Joe. Hello. Do you want to do a dungeon?
Actually.
Another game that got some awesome footage this week on the Quest was Drop Dead Dual Strike. It is a sort of a House of the Dead style arcade shooter with zombies, of course. But of course, in this case, it's on the Quest, so it's 6th degree of freedom, and you've got 2 controllers, so you can dual wield. You can melee in one hand and shooting in the other. You can swing around and hit things behind you. It even has a co-op mode, which I am particularly excited about. I got 2 quests coming for that very reason. I want to play with friends. I want to play with my girlfriend. I want to play with my family. I want to play games with them in one room, me in the other, or them in another area of the city. Doesn't matter, because we can go on the online and play these things. And this particular game seems like a great one. And the graphics, I'm really impressed that these sort of graphics are coming out on the Quest. They're by no means the latest and greatest, but I already know that being in that environment in the Quest versus seeing it here on the screen right now are totally 2 different experiences. And my experience tells me this is going to be just an awesome, awesome experience. In fact, Mike over Virtual Oasis, who recorded this video, said it was a really cool game and really enjoyed his experience in there. Another game we saw Quest footage of this week was Rec Room. There was 2 areas we saw. There was the paintball area, and there was a Super Mario World custom area. I don't know what to say about this one. The links are below. All the links for all these videos I ever mentioned are always below. This looks really cool. I don't even know how this is even legal or how long this is gonna last, because I'm sure Nintendo isn't too happy, because it's a direct ripoff of a Mario game. But it's a custom area that someone's gone ahead and built within Rec Room, and it looks super, super cool. In fact, if you haven't played Rec Room, it is just a really, really cool game. It's part sports game, it's part social platform, it's part dungeon crawler, now a Mario custom world. Like, it's just really hard to explain it. It's really got a lot of stuff in there, and it's definitely one of my favorites on the Vive and the Oculus Rift. I've been playing it for quite some time now, and I cannot wait to get my hands on this. And looking at the videos today, I'm shocked. It looks the same as the PC version. Now, granted, it's never been a graphic powerhouse, and it's never mattered. And that's the beauty of VR. Even basic low poly, low lighting, low everything graphics are really cool. Boring on the screen, super cool inside, like I was saying earlier with the other games. It's just something about being in VR that changes the entire experience. So I'm really looking forward to that one, and I'm looking forward to a paintball session where I can go into a larger space and not have to worry about going out. In fact, I'll tell you a funny story. I was playing paintball in Rec Room a couple years ago. This was back when I had my Vive, and I was in heat of battle, and I stepped backwards, and before I knew it, I stepped out of my play space and right out of my front door, which had a bit of a drop. I stepped back a few more feet. That really freaked me out. And unfortunately, we don't have any videos on it this week, but Moss screenshots were posted on their Twitter page. Developer PolyArt Games posted them. And again, just like the other games here, I'm really blown away by the kind of graphics that this mobile processor, the Snapdragon 835 that's in the Quest, is able to pump out. I mean, these are really pretty graphics. And Moss is a game that I actually have not played, but I am interested in it, and it has gotten really solid reviews in the past. So this is one that if you're into platformers in VR, this is one to look out for. And this week's Oculus Blog wasn't as exciting as I was hoping it was going to be. Anyone who's following it would have heard of a game called Fuji, which is like this interesting, trippy adventure in this very colorful world that's like, they call it a creative gardening game. So it's interesting. I'm not sure if it's a title I would buy, but I would definitely like to try a demo because maybe I'll be sold on it, but sure looks colorful and very interesting, so that's for sure. Another one called Underpresents, which is an interactive theater experience. Now, I haven't experienced an interactive theater experience. I think that's what Vader Immortal is also going to be like. And this seems to be an emerging trend, and I hope these things are great because it sounds interesting, to be honest. I think being in these worlds and being a part of that theater and being in the production is kind of a cool thing. And the last one they talked about this week in the Oculus Blog was Soriento. Now that's a game that got a 4.5 out of 5 on the Oculus Store. It's an action shooter and it looks really cool. It has parkour elements and just a really fast-paced, immersive action type of game. Also this week, VR Chat released their first footage of the Oculus Quest for their platform. And they also gave some interesting details about the direction they're taking things. First, they are making all of VR Chat cross-platform. That means if you've got friends over in the Vive or Oculus Rift in VR Chat, you will now be able to interact with them. Now, not in all areas. There's going to be areas that are going to be for PC VR users only, and there's going to be areas that are going to be for Quest VR areas only. But your home space plus the hub are going to be areas that all can enjoy, and you can get together and participate and watch shows. The hub has received some cool makeovers, and all those makeovers that came to the Quest are getting rolled out to all the other platforms starting on the 21st as well. And one of the things that they've done that I think is really cool is that they've given it a darker lighting effect. They really wanted to have sort of an after hours vibe. So no matter what time of day it is, when you go into VR Chat, you're going to be in this sort of kind of cool atmosphere. And they found, based on their data analysis that they've been doing for the last couple of years, that those sorts of environments seem to be more social. People are more free and more open to talk. It's interesting, the psychology. It's not really dark. Maybe it's middle of the afternoon where you are. But because it feels dark and it feels like night somewhere else in VR, it makes you more chatty. I find that so fascinating. And they're saying there's more to come, including all sorts of details around interactive between the two platforms. It sounds like a really neat way of meeting people online. And if you don't know, there's live shows inside of VR Chat. In fact, my show, I'm thinking about putting in VR Chat on a weekly basis. You know, when I first publish it, I might go in there and set a time, 10 p.m. on Saturday nights. Don't quote me on that time yet. I'm thinking about it. Come join me and watch the first episode, and you can then meet and talk with other people, from all around the world about what you just saw and what you're excited about and what your comments are. So look forward to that in the coming weeks. And the last application I want to talk about here this week is YouTube VR. Yes, officially it's coming. It will be here on launch, and it's going to support all the VR videos they make, both the 180 degree, the 360 degree, and both in mono and stereographic modes. And that's a pretty wide library of content to watch, from rock shows to DJ concerts to cool interactive art things to museum tours. Like, there's a lot of neat stuff in there. Some of it, like a lot of it, is pretty subpar, I'll tell you. But there are some cool highlights in there worth exploring. So that's cool. We haven't heard from Netflix yet, but I'm sure we're going to hear about them sooner or later, hopefully for launch or very shortly thereafter, because I think a lot of people would really like to be able to watch Netflix. And of course, to get around that for now, you can go ahead and get big screen and just watch Netflix that's running on your PC. This week also, again, talking about Sebastian over at MRTV, he did a cool experiment where he did some through the lenses shoots, and he showed us what the lenses look like, what the screens look like through the lenses inside the Oculus Quest. And it looks really good. In fact, he was noting that the display is actually remarkably good. It's better in his opinion than the Vive. It's better than the original Oculus Rift. It's better than the Rift S, because he's tried that as well. It's better than the Samsung Odyssey. It's got better blacks than the HP Reverb. The God rays, which is something that a lot of people just hate. And if you don't know what God rays are, go ahead and Google it. There's lots and lots of examples of what that looks like. And even the God rays, while still present, unfortunately, are dramatically reduced. And he was just saying that it's just a really, really good picture. So go ahead and look for the link below if you want to see that in a lot more detail. It's a pretty cool video. And Sebastian, as always, does an awesome job at giving us those really little details that I think we all appreciate. And for those who are interested in recording or streaming, including live streaming, head over to Cast and Cherry VR, where they've got a 14-minute video that they go into all the details on how you can do all these things with the Quest using standard features that come with the Quest, all the way through doing side loading and running some pretty cool ways of recording and capturing the audio through a live stream. So for those of you who want to share your stuff online and don't want to go through the Facebook live stream, good news is there are other ways of doing this. And I myself, for sure, are going to be doing some live streams in the future. And I'm going to be capturing lots of cool games inside the Quest to share with you each week when we do our news review. On the business side this week, there's another cool app that I like to share with you. Last week I talked about Virtual Desktop. It's a cool app that allows you to share your Windows PC to your Oculus Quest. Now, the one limitation it had was there was only one window that you could share, the whole desktop basically. Another application called Immersive VR, link below, and they allow you to stream multiple windows. I don't know what the limit is, they haven't said, but they showed some with like 8 or 9 windows, and this really excites me. Having to be able to pull up different applications in a virtual office dome with monitors around you is something really cool. They haven't announced the price yet. I'm going to guess $10 to $15 range, maybe 30 at most. But it's an app that I'm very keen on, and it's also a launch title. So if you want to get virtual windows up in your environment, this might be a way of doing that for you. Now, the one caveat I will say, and I think I said it last week, the virtual desktop as well, is that text isn't the easiest to read in these devices. It's not impossible, but if you've got a large web page that's a decent sized monitor in front of you, and there's a lot of writing on it, it's a little hard to see. You sort of have to lean in to see it. It's not great yet. At the resolution we're at today with VR, it's okay. I don't know if I would want to be in there all day. Immersive VR is saying that you can stay in there for 8 hours. I don't know if I buy that, but I think we're heading that direction, and certainly maybe the Oculus Quest 2 or 3 or some point down the line, we're going to get retina quality and pixels will be a thing of the past. You will not see them. Reddit user Jasper Pants this week, and he's the fellow who received his unit accidentally from Walmart way too early. And it took like 10 days to actually arrive, but he got a message, the day or two after he pre-ordered it, and it turned up, 10 days later. And this was like 2 weeks before the Oculus Quest is supposed to even, be available. And unfortunately, he can't do anything with it, so he's been twiddling his thumbs, but he has been doing some cool experiments. And in this one here, as you can see, he went ahead and charged it in a very elaborate manner where he measured everything, and he discovered that it takes about 2 hours to charge the Oculus Quest. That's not too bad, that's pretty fast. What's really interesting, when you look at his data here in the little timer, which measures not only that, but measures the voltage, the amperage, and the wattage, it actually got to 75% charged in 1 hour and 12 minutes. That's pretty exciting. That means you can get a 75% charge in way less time. And 75%, I mean, if you just want to play a couple games and your thing's dead, 1 hour and 12 minutes later, you're basically almost fully charged. So that's a nice feature. And then one more time, Sebastian over MRTV confirmed that playtime with games is about 2.5 hours. That's pretty good. In fact, that's what most people are going to want to spend at any one point in time inside of VR. However, and there will be some of you who want to go longer, Sebastian also confirmed this week that yes, You can plug in your battery and you can still play while you're running. So that's something we weren't sure about. We weren't sure if when you plugged in a battery, if it would just shut off the Quest and go into charge mode, but it doesn't. It can charge and you can play at the same time. And there's all sorts of people coming up with ideas of how they might do that, from the battery pack kind of taped or mounted on the back of their head strap to having it in their pocket with a wire running down. There's lots of different options here. Personally, I like the one that's on your head, which is a short little wire. I hate wires hanging on me because they tend to flap about and to get caught up in your controllers, and nothing worse than having something ripped out, especially an earphone. It's terrible. And the last story this week I want to tell you about is a rumor that started this week that Minecraft was coming to the Quest. And unfortunately, it doesn't appear to be, at least not anytime soon. But there is hope. John Carmack came out and said that it is possible. There are ways to get it on there. They already got it running on the Samsung Gear VR. So I think we're going to see it at some point come over to the Quest. So let's hold our fingers crossed, because I know a lot of you would love to see that experience with the controllers built in, not just the button mashing that's been implemented to date, but with the full Oculus Touch controllers implemented, so you can go ahead and grab those blocks, chop those blocks, and get a little more immersed in that super cool world. All right, that's it for this week. I hope you enjoyed the show. There was lots of news. I'm sure next week is going to be just as jam-packed. If you have any comments about the show, feel free to leave them below. All of your comments are very much welcomed. I love reading them. I respond to all of them. And there's been some fantastic ones over the last 3 weeks. It's been very encouraging for me. If you'd like me to cover something next week, by all means, go ahead and comment. Love to also hear about your experiences getting your Quest. Did it arrive on time? Did you get there on the 21st and try to line up to get yours? Was it delayed? Do you have any problems? What were your first impressions? Anything to do with the Quest this week, I would love to hear your comments. And I'm sure others, because a lot of people read each other's comments here below, I'm sure they'd like to hear that as well. So please, please, please send us a comment. Let us know how you get on. And truly this week, I will see you all in the metaverse. Maybe in VR chat. Look for me, VR Matthew. See you in the metaverse. Hi there, welcome to the secret end of the show. I've got a couple things for you this week for those of you who hung out this long. First, we're going to save you $10 on Orbis VR. That's right, if you act now and go and buy it for the Oculus Rift, a link to that below to the Oculus store, you can get it for $10 off, but you got to act fast because it's only valid until the 19th. And after that, it goes back up to the full price. And of course, it's a cross-buy application, so the minute you get your Quest, you can transfer your license and you've got it both on the Rift and on the Quest. So that's a pretty awesome deal. Go ahead and save $10 there. Also, for my UK listeners, you can go and save some $30. If you head over to very.co.uk and enter in coupon code 30OFF, you can get £30 off. And that takes your Oculus Quest down to £369.99. So that's a heck of a great deal. I guess the best deal I think I've seen for the Quest anywhere. I haven't seen any deals like that. So go ahead over there. And the last thing I want to leave with you is this hilarious video. And of course, all the links I just talked about are at the very, very end of the description, at the very bottom. So go ahead and check those out. We'll see you in the metaverse. Bye-bye.